Howdy and happy Saturday, everyone. I am back after about 3 long weeks in the sun. Was going to try to get a video out to y'all last week, but I was having technical issues, so wasn't able to get anything recorded. But I am back now, and I got some stuff for y'all today. I did notice over the last couple weeks I got some new subscribers, so I just wanted to thank y'all so much. You don't know how much that is just amazing to see. I'm just so glad to see that, and I want to thank y'all so much for helping out and supporting the channel. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's get into it. Now, this one's going to be a little different than normal because I don't have anything that I can give to quote what I saw, because I happened to just hear a comment on a talk show. And I've never called into a talk show before, but I was this close to, because I was angry enough at what this caller had to say. Now, for those of you who haven't noticed this, and I don't know how you couldn't, but it's possible. Lately, there's been some shifts in our society as to what the marriage norms are in culture. And one of the biggest things has been the House and Senate and President signing off on a bill to protect same-sex marriages and all that good old stuff, which doesn't really make any sense to me because I don't really see how you can have a marriage between same-sex, given a marriage is, specifically between opposite genders. But whatever, they're going to do what they're going to do. Does it make it right? No, it doesn't. Do I agree with it? Not in the slightest, but I can't do much about it. Anyways, though, there is someone who could do something about it, and she did. If you've not heard about it, a Texas judge recently refused to perform same-sex marriages on her Christian beliefs. The sensible beliefs that God ordained marriage in a specific way, and for us to try to go against it is against that. Now, interestingly, she didn't even try to prevent them from getting married. She was very polite about it. She just said, I will not do that, and even offered to send them to another judge who could. I'm going to try to get some stuff up there that y'all can see to verify all that and go look at all that and whatnot, because that's all public knowledge. But that's not really what I wanted to talk about today. What was interesting to me was I happened to be listening to the radio on my way to work a couple weeks ago when I heard this caller call in named, I think it was Kyle was the name, if I remember correctly.
What's this about, Kyle?
And now Kyle, for whatever reason, had this strangest belief about scripture that it was against the judge. Now, you see, Kyle is a firm believer in Jesus's commandment to render unto Caesar what is due to Caesar. Now, here's where things get a little bit interesting. I'm a firm believer in that too, but what he argued was that because we render unto Caesar what is due to Caesar, the judge needed to perform that same-sex marriage under these interesting statements. He said that the Constitution is our Caesar in the instance, which makes sense, Constitution is what we fall under. And he said specifically, now get this, that the Constitution says to treat everybody fairly. And if you're going to treat everybody fairly, then you need to allow same-sex couples to get married. Now, I don't know about you, but that seems a little bit off. And I think I got about 3 reasons that I'm going to argue against that. First, I'm going to go on the political standpoint here, because using the Constitution in that way is not really the way the Constitution is meant to be used. The Constitution, to my understanding, does not specifically say that you have to treat everybody fairly, because if that was the case, I don't see why we lock up pedophiles, but we don't lock up anybody else. Pedophiles should be allowed to roam the streets, or serial killers. We need to treat them the same as we treat everybody else. They should be allowed to roam the streets as well. So the Constitution doesn't really say to treat everybody fairly in the way that he's saying it. Now, on another standpoint, I will also argue that this lady is treating everybody fairly, the same way I do. You see, I have a firm belief that everybody is allowed to get married to the opposite gender. See, that's fair for everyone. I think that for everyone. If a lady wants to get married to the opposite gender, she should be allowed to get married to the opposite gender. If a guy wants to get married to the opposite gender, he should be allowed to get married to the opposite gender, and vice versa. If a woman wants to get married to a woman, I don't think she's allowed to. If a man wants to get married to a man, I don't think he should be allowed to. But you know what? That seems fair to me. I'm treating everybody the same. Everybody's allowed to get married to the opposite gender. So you can see there's a bit of a interpretation bias there, depending on who you are, because some people are still going to treat everybody fairly and say they should be able to get married to whoever they want. They're still treating everybody the same. She's doing the same thing. She's not biased towards anyone. She's just saying she doesn't believe in same-sex marriages for anyone. And now the interesting thing to me is she didn't even try to stop them. It's not like she told them, no, you can't get married. She even referred them to a judge who would do it, which was way out of her way as far as I can tell. and yet they still chose to sue over it. But, well, here's where things get really interesting to me, is to take this whole render unto Caesar what is due to Caesar argument. Conveniently, also, you'll notice that he left out the second part of the verse, which says, and render unto God what is due to God, which we'll get into in a moment, and say that that means that you should have to marry them because apparently the Constitution says she should have to marry him, which it doesn't, as I just said. Constitution doesn't say anything along those lines. In fact, to the last of my knowledge, the Texas Constitution, which I'll try to put this up here unless they've changed it, which is possible. We just went through a legislative session and I've not looked since then, but I'm fairly certain we have to vote to amend the Constitution, and I ain't voted to amend that. So, unless they manage to sneak that through somehow, I'm fairly certain the Texas Constitution defines marriage as a union between a man and a woman. I will try to find that and get that put up there for y'all. But in any case, to say render unto Caesar what is due unto Caesar, that does not apply to marriage, because marriage was ordained by God, which means it's not due to Caesar, it is due to God. Marriage is a promise that God, the Lord, set up between Adam and Eve, not something that the government set up. So if you're going to follow that logic that you need to render unto Caesar what is due to Caesar and apply it to everything like that, then there is nothing wrong to do, assuming the government wants you to. So you think if the government goes and tells you need to start going murder people, that means it's okay because render unto Caesar what is due to Caesar? No, of course not. Jesus was talking about taxes because people were getting all up in arms and wanting to fight the government over money. Who cares? It's money. And in many other circumstances, if the government wants your house to be built a certain way, who cares? God doesn't have any commandments on how to build your house. Government wants you to work extra long hours. God doesn't have anything in there that says anything against that. But in terms of marriage or life or people's possessions, anything like that, there are standards in the good book, the Bible, that say how you're supposed to go about those things. And just because the government says otherwise does not mean you fall into that. There is a fine balance between rendering to Caesar what is due to Caesar and using it as an excuse to get away with whatever lustful, selfish desires you have. And in this particular case, trying to shift marriage from being to God to the government and defending same-sex marriages in that way is absolutely disgusting. And I'm sorry, Mr. Kyle. I doubt you'll see this, maybe, who knows? But that is just a horrible misinterpretation of the scripture. And if that's what we're going to go on with, well, then really there is nothing that we have to do because the government can tell us to do whatever we want and we just go ahead and do it. So anyways, that's that. That one was an absolute pain to see. Personally, I applaud the judge. I think she handled it very gracefully. Well, that's all I got for y'all right now. Sorry my editing was a bit less than usual. Working on another project that I'll hopefully have out right about after this one. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please consider leaving a like, comment, or even subscribing, as that would really help out the channel. Thank y'all so much, and hopefully I'll see y'all in the next one.